Look up at the night sky. Each star is a sun, some ancient, some already gone, yet their light still reaches us. Like stars, empires blaze brightly, then fade. We live in a world built from the dust of fallen empires. From Rome's roads to Britain's trade, great powers rise with purpose. But an unseen clock is always ticking. The universe is change, and no empire is immune to time. In the rhythms of history, we find reflections of our own time, a warning, and perhaps a bit of wisdom. Why care about empires that vanished centuries ago? Because we live inside their echoes. Our world wasn't built from scratch, it was shaped by the ambitions and failures of empires long gone. The English language, the borders on maps, even the food we eat, these are imperial legacies. Empires reveal a pattern. When a group gains an advantage, they expand, build systems, and impose order. For a while, it works. Stability and prosperity for some, but growing complexity and rigidity. Eventually empires can adapt. They rise, peak, and decline, a cycle seen in nations, companies, even ideas. Roman law, global trade in spices, the spread of religions, these are not just history but the architecture of our present. The past is alive in our institutions, cultures, and minds. Studying empires gives us a cosmic perspective on our own times. We learn to spot the signs of rising powers, overreach, and decline. It teaches humility and challenges the idea that our way of life is the final destination. All human systems are temporary, experiments, not endpoints. By understanding why past experiments failed, we might build more resilient, just, and sustainable systems. The story of empires is the story of us. What is an empire? At its core, it's a state that rules over diverse peoples and territories, a dominant core controlling a periphery. Empires don't appear fully formed, they grow from small seeds, a city, a tribe, a kingdom. The journey begins with an advantage. Roman discipline, Mongol mobility, British naval power. This spark lets them solve problems others can't, winning battles, producing more, trading better. Success breeds more success. Each victory brings more resources and confidence. Rising empires innovate, building roads, creating laws, inventing bureaucracy, standardizing currency. Expansion forces them to become smarter and more organized. But growth isn't just about power, it's about belief. Every empire has a story. Romans brought order. Spanish spread Christianity. British claimed to civilize. This ideology justifies conquest and unites the core. It turns expansion into destiny. Empires are problem-solving machines but also belief systems. Their rise is fueled by both practical advantage and powerful narrative. The seed of empire is as much an idea as it is an army, and that idea can be as potent as any weapon. Empires grow by solving problems and telling stories. But every solution and story contains the seeds of future challenges. Travel back to Rome, a small city on the Tiber, surrounded by rivals. Rome's strength was discipline and organization. Its legions built as much as they fought, constructing roads and aqueducts to bind the empire. Rome conquered not just to defeat, but to incorporate, offering citizenship to some, turning enemies into allies. The Republic grew into an empire, stretching from Britain to Mesopotamia. At its height, Rome was a world unto itself. One currency, one law, roads connecting millions. The Pax Romana brought 2 centuries of stability and prosperity. But Rome's strengths became weaknesses. The empire grew too vast, its borders under constant threat. Defending it required huge armies and crushing taxes, straining the economy and people. Political instability followed. Emperors rose and fell through civil war. The fall wasn't a single event, but a slow, unraveling economic decline, population loss, division into East and West. The vibrant culture faded into fear and uncertainty. By 476 AD, the Western Empire was gone, but for those living through it, the end was a long, painful process. Roads crumbled, aqueducts broke, and the grand experiment ended. Yet Rome's legacy, law, language, the idea of unity, endured. The story of Rome is a warning, even the mightiest can fall. Empires collapse not in a day but over generations. Their ruins become the foundation for what comes next. The cycle continues, and the lessons remain. Fast forward to the 13th century, Central Asia's grasslands, where Genghis Khan unites the Mongols. Their power wasn't in walls or laws, but in speed, adaptability, and ruthless efficiency. In decades, they built the largest land empire in history, their mounted archers outmaneuvering all rivals. Conquest was brutal, but rule was pragmatic, tolerant of religions, focused on order. The Mongols secured the Silk Road connecting China to the Mediterranean. Under the Pax Mongolica, goods, ideas, and people moved across Eurasia as never before. Gunpowder reached Europe, Marco Polo reached China. The world became interconnected, but the empire's vastness was its flaw. After Genghis Khan's grandsons, it fractured into khanates. Mongol rulers adopted local cultures. The nomadic identity faded. The storm passed, but the connections remained. The Mongols rewired the old world, creating the first globalized network. Their empire fell, but the world they shaped endured. The legacy of connection outlasted the conquerors. Leap to Britain, a small island that embraced the sea and built a global empire. The Industrial Revolution gave Britain unmatched power factories, steamships, and a navy that ruled the waves. At its peak, the British Empire covered a quarter of the world's land and people. The sun never sets on the British Empire. It was always daytime somewhere in its vast domains. Unlike Rome or the Mongols, Britain's empire was maritime, run by trade, finance, and a small cadre of officials. The British believed in a civilizing mission, building railways, universities, and imposing their systems worldwide. For many, the empire brought pride and wealth. For others, exploitation and loss. The end came gradually. 2 world wars drained Britain and colonial subjects demanded independence. The decline was mostly peaceful, a negotiated handover, not a violent collapse. The sun finally set, but the legacy, language, law, global finance remains. Empires end, but their shadows linger. The British Empire's story is a lesson in the limits of power. Even the mightiest must yield to change. Empires are often seen through the eyes of rulers, but for ordinary people, the experience was complex. For some, empire brought peace, order, and opportunity, roads, trade, and safety from chaos. For others, it meant loss of land, leaders, traditions, and autonomy. New languages, gods, and taxes arrived, sons conscripted for distant wars. Empire created strange connections, a Syrian soldier in Britain, an Indian merchant in Africa. Hybrid cultures, new foods, and music emerged, but so did deep inequality. The imperial core stood above the conquered, fueling resentment and the desire for self-rule. This quiet force of resistance, as much as any army, helped bring empires down. When empires fall, they leave ghosts, shaping our world in ways we barely notice. Borders in Africa and the Middle East, drawn by imperial powers, still fuel conflict. Languages like English and Spanish are global because of empire. Religions, populations, even genetics, profoundly shaped by imperial expansion and collapse. Our financial systems and international organizations are imperial echoes. Empires were the original globalizers, creating vast networks of trade and power. The interconnected world we inhabit is their legacy. The cycle is clear: birth, growth, decay, and death. Empires rise by solving problems, but their own success breeds new challenges: complexity, inequality, overreach. They become too rigid, too costly, and lose the adaptability that made them great. Their fall is also a rebirth, providing the raw material for new societies and new experiments. The cosmic clock ticks on. The great human experiment continues.